Here is something for you to think over. There will be doubters, there will be mistakes. But with hard work, there are no limits. And who better to say this than one of the most celebrated Olympians of all times, Michael Phelps. So you may come across challenges, don't let them phase you. When you see challenges, you actually know that you are on the right path. So KSP Learn, good afternoon. Priyanshi, good noon. KKF, hi, how are you? Gokul, 40 raw score. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. That definitely is a possibility now. So let's go ahead and dive into the snap kind of things now. So I'm not giving you dedicated directions for a set of instructions. For every question, you will see the directions appear on the screen. Use those directions to go ahead and answer the questions. So here is the first one. Choose the best word from the options to fill in the blank. So you know that fill in the blank questions can belong to two distinct categories. So you have fill in the blank questions that test your grammar. So for example, if I talk about SNAP last year, we had these fill in the blank questions that were predominantly preposition driven, but in the past, they have delved into other areas of grammar as well. And then you have that verbal ability kind of fill in the blank questions where your vocabulary plus comprehension plus logic play a bigger role. So I will introduce you to both the varieties, but I am going to tilt a little more towards grammar because that has been the recent trend. So here is the question. Go ahead and tell me what your answer should be. Harsh, a very warm hello. What's your answer? Okay, Harsh is the first one to give the answer as well. Ek taraf hello, ek taraf answer. I like that. Okay, so I have met my quota of the number of answers to start our discussion, but with the way the answers are coming in, I don't even need to discuss. Okay, so B it is. Now I have one extra question for you here, and that extra question is, what is the difference between very good and too good? What is the difference? How do we really decide when to use very, when to use too? See, in this particular case, things were simple. You know? Too good to be true is an idiomatic expression, and therefore we could go ahead and choose this. But in other situations, is there a difference between very and too? So yes, there is. Very is used in a positive sense, whereas too is used in a negative sense. Yeah. So SP Learn absolutely. Rainy has definitely gotten this head on. Okay, next question. Once again, a fill in the blank. Here it is for you. Yes, Jayadatta, in that particular expression, too good to be true, yes. There is definitely the meaning that it carries there. So we're getting A, we're getting B. I'm surprised nobody is picking up C so far. Right. So, what exactly is this sentence? When you talk about sentences that deal with wishes, okay, or as we can call them, these are sentences that deal with hypothetical situations. Or if I were to bring in a hardcore term from grammar, remember there is something called a subjunctive mood. These are different sentences. Okay. These are the sentences where we never use was, irrespective of the subject. Even if the subject is singular, you will never use was. So, what do we use in wishes? So, if the wish is possible, then we use were. On the other hand, if the wish is impossible, then we use the past perfect tense. Then we use had. And how do we determine whether a wish is possible or impossible? Very simple. The only thing that is considered impossible in grammar is to turn the clock back. So if you want that something to be true at some point of time in the past, in the time that has gone by, it's only then that you would consider it impossible and therefore use had. Otherwise, in every such situation, you'd stick to using where. In some specific cases where you want something to come true, not in the past, not right now, but at some point of time in the future, in that specific scenario, we also may end up using would in our wishes. But otherwise, these are the three constructions, right? And that is why B is ruled out. And because the wish is not impossible, C is also ruled out. Have is never used, and that leaves you with A as your answer. Okay, next one. So another fill in the blank. Here it is on the screen. So this is your preposition based fill in the blank, the variety that we got extensively last year. Okay, I have quite a few answers. So it is indeed B. Balvinder, you make up for the lost time. You don't make up with the lost time. You may make up with a person. And even there, would you use make up even for a person? But as far as time goes, you definitely use for, and that is why the correct answer is B. Here is question number 4. Satyam, where is your answer? खाली message भेजा अच्छा okay, so probably accidentally hit send, right? Fill in the blank on your screen and go ahead, give me your answer. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a look at this. Oh, maybe, Vrinda, it's a possibility, yaar. Now, this is a question that essentially tested your understanding of idioms. So I realized that the boy was trying to paint the town red about his parents being out of town. What do you mean by paint the town red? Paint the town red, as most of us would know, have a great time. Basically party and party hard. But then, will it fit into this sentence? So the boy could have been trying to paint the town red when his parents were out of town. But the moment you say this about, you realize that A cannot be the answer. Take the bull by the horns is to face a challenge head on. Once again, does not make any sense in this particular context. Be between the alpha and the omega. I don't even recall whether we have some such idiom. We do use this for God. I am the alpha and the omega is I'm the beginning and the end, which basically means I am God. But between the alpha and the omega is not even an idiom. Spin me a line. What does that mean? To deceive someone by lying. So check this out now. Will this go? So the boy was lying about his parents being out of town. That is something that's plausible. And therefore, the answer to this question should actually be D and not A. हाँ, वो मतलब ये तो अपना जीके यूज कर डाला लोगों ने देखा घर वाले बाहर है पीछे से बच्चे क्या करेंगे पार्टी करेंगे मगर ये बात ही नहीं हो रही थी कि घर वाले बाहर है तो पीछे से क्या किया जाएगा. That about changed it entirely. It was not talking about what the boys do when the parents are not in town. And that is why we should rule out A. Here is the next one. So, choose the best word from the options to fill in the blank. Here it is. This is one of the old snap questions. This is an actual snap question. Let us see whether you are aware of the collocations or not, because that is what it tests. Okay, Espilan, I hope this is an answer to question 5. There is a very popular poem called Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So we know that stars twinkle. And we have a synonym of twinkle here, and that is scintillate. And that is why the answer should be D. Blazing is a much more powerful burst of light plus fire. So it is the sun. The sun blazes. The sun can blaze through the sky. We want to use it for a faint source of light. So you can rule it out. Murmur is used for sound. It is not even used for light. Your heart murmurs. So stars scintillate, stars twinkle. They do not blaze or murmur. What other answers did we get? Murmuring is flickering. Nah. Murmuring is a very low sound. Murmur also has this other secondary meaning. There are times when people are unhappy about situation, but they don't talk about it loudly. They talk quietly about it. So that. And then murmur can be a soft, continuous sound. It is not used for light anymore. That is why I said collocations. Collocation is fundamentally about whether two words are used together by the native speakers or not. So murmuring is not used for light, therefore can be ruled out. With that, let me dive into our next question. Here it is. Another preposition based one. Let's see how you deal with this. और grovel का मतलब होता है गिड़गिड़ाना, to beg. Grovel can mean to kneel. घुटनों पे आ जाना. Aryan, SP, KKF. So you kneel or grovel at someone's feet, and therefore the correct answer here should be B. We don't use upon for it. To grovel upon the feet. At. You know what? You always you throw yourself at someone's feet. So when you have feet, you typically use at. By basically means next to it, on the side of it. You don't do that, right? And therefore, even by is eliminated. So our best answer is D. And the trouble with prepositions is, yeah, that there are times when we turn up for these classes and we expect a rationale or a logic, but then there are some things which are emergent. There are some things which are purely knowledge based. Okay, it's like if somebody asks us why is 2 plus 2 4? Well, it is 4 because we have decided to call it 4. Similarly, prepositions also happen to have this area called dependent prepositions. We use a particular preposition in a particular situation because people have decided to use it there. So there is not much of a logic or a rationale that you would typically find. Okay, next one. Question number 7 on your screen. This should be easy for most of us. Cheesecake, gray area? No, no. There is gray area is where there is a confusion between what is right and what is wrong. It is not gray. It is black and white. But it is very challenging for a learner because there are uh, so dependent prepositions basically means certain nouns, certain adjectives, certain verbs take some specific prepositions coming after it. So the problem is that there are thousands of nouns, adjectives, and verbs. You cannot memorize it all. So that makes it a challenging area for somebody who is not using English in his day-to-day life. On the other hand, people who use English in their day-to-day life, they'd find it ridiculously easy. Okay, so only the blood-stained road was a witness to his assassination. ऑन कैसे चूज करोगे यार इसमें किसी एंगल से भी नहीं आएगा हाउ कैन यू बी विटनेस ऑन यू कैन बी विटनेस ऑफ or witness to but on in different contexts of course but on तो कभी भी नहीं आता यार we never use on with witness. So it basically this sentence basically says there was no witness. Yeah, Aryan, we could have used off in some contexts, but then that is exactly why off is not part of the options so that the question can have only one answer. So basically, when you say witness of, yeah, you can say he was a witness, he was the sole witness of that crime. That's absolutely correct. Okay, next one. So this time around, now I am taking you towards a question which is a combination of vocabulary and comprehension and logic and not just pure vocabulary, not just pure grammar. So what's your take for it? Jaydat, if you're giving me answer to question 8, that's really fast, huh? It's really quick. You can actually use a couple of clues that are here. So in such questions, those clues point us towards the right answer. So you have an and here, which means that notice to prosper is positive. So it means that you need a positive word here. And then thereafter, you notice the but. So if this part is positive, you know that you need to have something negative for that area here. So in the second blank, dissipated basically means that there were no invaders. They got scattered. So that won't be negative. You can rule it out. Attracted barbarian invaders, yes. Restricted is not negative in that context. So ruled out. Evicted, once again, not negative. So we want to say that they had the problem of invaders. So if I look at the second blank, dissipated, restricted, evicted basically means thrown out from the north. So that is not a contrasting idea, but a similar idea. So we cannot even use A, C, and D, the second word of A, C, and D in the second blank, and therefore our answer had to be B. Okay, here is the next one. Okay. Uh-huh. Fabulous, guys. Fabulous. Yes, B is the right answer. And I think everybody has managed to get this one right. Uh, if you look at A, I see an A as well. Rich money. Will they work together? Rich and money. So A could be ruled out. C. Can we use one in the first blank? Sunita's one in athletics. What you need is a noun here. Had it been victory, you could have considered it. Okay. And nobody has really chosen D, so we can let it go. Here is the next one. Question number 10. The last fill in the blanks, I think, that I'm asking you. Arey, I ended up repeating the question. Oh my God. So let's take you over to the next one. Accident हो गया हाँ चीज केक says rich money is like wet water. हाँ गानों में चलता है यार ये. You can do that in songs. You cannot do that in your prose. Remember that famous song Ishq Wala Love, which I, for the life of mine, I couldn't understand what that really meant. Ishq Wala Love. Anyhow, so here you go. Ignore this. So just read these two sentences, go to the options, and you know what you're supposed to do. Just of the two sentences, you are supposed to pick up the one that is grammatically correct. Arsh, I wish, but I have no misgivings. I'm good as a bathroom singer, but if I want to sing for people, I need to train. And that's something that I've never done. But maybe चलो देखते हैं अगले साल के गोल में डाल के देखते हैं ट्रेन करना. लोगों के लिए तो नहीं मगर हाँ खुद के लिए तो मजा आएगा पार्टीज वार्टीज में मजा आएगा. So which one? Is it A? Is it B? So देखो ध्यान से देखो. Recently, I read about a unique wedding that took place in the newspaper. Just focus on this part. Now, do you know that there is something called a misplaced modifier? Misplaced modifier is an adjective or an adverb that is placed incorrectly and therefore it leads to a weird meaning from that sentence. For example, uh, now, if you look at this particular sentence, what does it mean? So technically, and before I use the word technically, let me define it. When it comes to modifiers, when it comes to adjectives, they modify the noun that is close to them. So in this particular sentence, we have an adjective clause. What is the noun that is close to it? Bag. So this sentence says that it was the bag that was bought from Pizza Hut. But obviously, it's not the bag that you buy from Pizza Hut. You would have bought a pizza from Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut guys don't sell bags. Similarly, if you look at the first sentence here, it tells us that the wedding took place in the newspaper. Now, how can a wedding take place in the newspaper? So, first has this issue of misplaced modifier. So, first sentence is incorrect. That helps us eliminate A and C, both of these answer choices. Let's look at second. Recently, I read in the newspaper about a unique wedding that took place. This is fine. There is no issue of misplaced modifier here. Uh, so we can actually go ahead and choose B as our answer. I am ignoring the errors of punctuation for the time being. Okay, so B. Here comes the next one. Question number 12. Four sentences. Your job is to identify the sentence that is grammatically correct. Sorry, yaar, I forgot to plug in my laptop and I suddenly realized that it's about to die. The business is an unique. No, no, we use a unique. A or an are not determined by the spelling of the word that comes after, but by the sound of the word that comes after. If quite a few of you want to discuss it further, let me know and I can include it, I can incorporate it in my session that I take tomorrow. And ignore the errors of punctuation for the time being. So I think the major thing that you need to focus here, that you need to focus here on is lose versus lose. So it's a question that is actually built around confusables. Can you lose a fish? LOOSC. And indeed, this is the part that is wrong, and that is why the right answer that most of you have shared is A. You know, your clothes, when they become loose, they don't fit you. If a particular garment is loose, it means that it is bigger than your size. So that's what lose means. Whereas LOSE lose is the opposite of win. Win or lose. A lot of people make this mistake when they write. Both of these are homonyms after all, and that is why this is a question that becomes important to address. Here is the next one. So change the voice of the given sentence. So you remember there is something called active voice and there is something called passive voice. Active voice is when the doer of the action happens to be the subject, and passive voice is when the doer is not the subject of the sentence. Right? So here is a sentence. Can you tell me the passive? Can you change the voice of this? Let's not even bother using that. Okay. So what's your take? Let us see what the right answer should be. So the correct answer here is option B. Now in C, the problem is we brought in told instead of say. They say that you did that. So you are said to have done that. Told will be wrong here. And since you've managed to rule out the other two options, let's not dive into those. Here is the next one. Abhirami, active and passive voices, whether the doer is the subject or not. Whereas direct, indirect speeches, in direct speech, you quote something, you quote what the other person has said as it is using the quote marks. In indirect speech, you remove those quote marks and then therefore the that part gets changed slightly. I haven't added any direct, indirect speech today. Let's do that tomorrow. So here is 14th. Once again, change the voice. Hmm. So, what's your take on 14th? Now that everybody, like now that a lot of you have solved it. Oh, yes, C is the correct one. Since no other option has been picked up, I think we can go ahead and choose that. Thank you, Amar Jyoti. I'm glad that you liked it. Vaibhav says result date. अबे आ जाएगा यार, आ जाएगा. क्यों चिंता कर रहा है? अपना काम क्या था? पेपर देना. दे दिया ना? आने दे result. It's okay. We'll see. Okay, and here is one last question. So, you know, Snap VRC section can also give you a parajumble, but the parajumble in Snap, there was a year when they gave us non-MCQ parajumbles, but then most of the years, the parajumbles that we have seen in Snap are MCQs. So here is one such MCQ parajumble. Why don't you go ahead and solve this, and then we can see if we need to discuss it. Please make sure that you use the answer choices. If you don't use the options, if you start treating it as a non-MCQ, it may end up taking a lot of time. And in Snap, the most premium commodity that we have is time. We can't do that, right? Okay, a lot of interesting answer choices that are trickling in. How did you end up solving it? Because if I see, okay, we are getting A's, B's, C's, D's, plenty of questions, man. That's a lot. That's a lot of questions right there. So let's go ahead and solve it. What do you say? Let's go ahead and work on it together. Let's dive in. Some people are born with greater possibilities or potential intelligence than others. Okay. Intelligence is improved by learning. Okay. So there are no distinct word based clues that are jumping out. See, it is no longer thought that intelligence is a general quality underlying all behavior inherited wholly from our parents. Then D, however, this potential may not develop unless it is encouraged. So this potential connects it with A. So you need to have A plus D. Now, if I move over to the answer choices, you have AD here, you have AD here. So our answer has to be C or D. And in both of the other options, you are given CB. So now the only question is CB before AD or AD before CB. What would you prefer? So what the CB says, it is no longer thought that intelligence is a general quality. Intelligence is improved by learning. So this paragraph, if we were to create it, it is basically about intelligence. What was earlier thought, what is now thought, and how it can be improved. So if I were to put one of these two before, which one should I put before? Now tell me something. I'm just isolating two sentences for you. Forget everything else. What do you think? What should their sequence be? D should come before B or B should come before D? So when you look at D, you notice both of them are essentially saying similar things. And when we see two sentences that say similar things and we notice that one of them is general, the other one more specific, then the sequence that we prefer is general to specific, except when the general sentence is a reiteration or a conclusion. So in this case, B is neither a reiteration nor a conclusion, and therefore I will prefer B to come before D, and thus we should go ahead and opt for option D over the other options. Cheesecake, I know there is nothing against this approach where we go by our feel, but the problem is feel is intuition, and intuition may not always be right. Somebody is also okay. Karthik is also shared A, B, C, D. A and D need to be together. Otherwise, how would you be able to justify the use of this? Vinay, when you say this, it, now there are two things. Number one, we have no problems in using a pronoun whose antecedent is not present as a first sentence. Number two, when you say it is no longer thought, it is, remember, it is used as an impersonal pronoun. One of the ways of using that impersonal pronoun is when you don't have a noun to refer to. They say it is said that X is better than Y. It can be an absolutely an opening sentence. So as an impersonal pronoun, I think just go ahead and look at it a little bit more, and this problem will anyway go. Okay, but on the whole, we should go ahead and choose D.